This is WION World is One. Glad you're watching. We are starting a new segment called Talk to WION, where we speak with different personalities across the globe who are making an impact at home and across the world. I'm Njoka and welcome to the show. But before I tell you who my guest is, watch this video. Now, if you haven't watched or seen that clip, then you need to go online and find it. Watch it and see how exciting and electrified you'll be. I'm more than honored to speak to the lady you just saw. She's the youngest member of parliament in New Zealand. Her name is Hana-Rawhiti Maipi-Clarke. Madam MP, thank you very much for making time for us and welcome to WION World is One.
Thank you, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Thank you for having me.
First of all, congratulations for being an elected member of parliament. What triggered that moment when you decided, I know parliament is in session, I have a gutsy feeling that this may not go down well with some people, but you went ahead and did it?
I was not fazed if people did not like it. I think a lot of people and opposition parties were accepting of it because this is our culture here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I think we're known for doing the haka just like the All Blacks. And this is who I am. I don't need to alter myself or anybody. And currently within our system here in the New Zealand government, we are actually going through some pretty crucial legislation with the Treaties Principles Bill, which is the treaty partnership between Indigenous people and tangata tiriti, which is people who have come to settle here after Indigenous. So, yeah, that's my reasoning behind my maiden speech.
How does it feel to be the youngest parliamentarian and famous New Zealander globally at only 21 years of age?
I guess a lot of this stuff has not settled in or synced in, and I don't let it get to my head. I'm privileged at the role that I have, and I try my best every day to serve the people who have elected me into this role. However, my goal is not to be famous or liked, or I have a job and a duty to do, and I'm very, very overwhelmed at the positive response. However, I keep very grounded at the same time.
I read somewhere that you are a gardener and you teach young children about gardening. With that being said, how would you describe yourself and what makes you feel so passionate about your community, the Maori?
So us as a people, we are the Indigenous people of Aotearoa. However, we also have migrated through navigation throughout the whole of Polynesia, as we are Polynesians. So there's a lot of hidden history, knowledge, gems, I kind of call them Da Vinci codes at times, that our ancestors have given us, but due to suppression, oppression and colonizations, those have been lost. So our duty is to make sure that we retain that information and pass that down to the next generation. And the political party that I'm associated with is Te Pāti Māori, and we are the only Indigenous party throughout Aotearoa. And this is what makes us, and we are unapologetic about our stance.
You are a staunch advocate of the Maori language. You also want to become the voice of the new generation within your community. Take us through that. Why is representing a minority community so important for you as a member of parliament?
I think that's our obligation, and that's our role and our responsibility. That's our kuleana, as a Hawaiian word that is your responsibility. That is almost like your destiny. And we are, even though there's not a big population of us, we walk with our ancestors and our future mokopuna or grandchildren that are to come. And our language was actually stripped out of our grandparents due to colonization and land confiscation, and then through that the knowledge had been suppressed by our oppressors. So we want to work with other people and other ethnicities. However, there is some deep lessons that we have to make sure that our language, our culture, the way we look after our land, the environment, we are making sure we keep safe of that.
Madam MP, New Zealand's new Prime Minister Christopher Luxon announced at least a dozen policies relating to the Maori population will be repealed or reviewed when he was elected. Can that do enough to address the concerns of Maori rights in New Zealand, or more needs to be done?
So basically, there's nothing that hasn't been addressed as Maori. So our Maori health care system, our Maori language, our actual treaties bill, treaty settlement has been repealed or reviewed currently through this coalition government. It is made up of 3 parties, and that's why us as the only Indigenous party in Aotearoa, we are making a very, very strong stance and making sure our people come with us on this journey. It's a long road ahead. However, there's been 4 significant events that have unified Te iwi Māori alongside tangata tiriti, tangata moana, and tangata tauiwi. So, yeah.
What is that one fundamental right that the Maori community and yourself has been agitating for years and you feel will be your greatest prerogative to achieve or make it happen in your time as a member of parliament?
Well, for us, there's been a breach of our treaty settlement since it was created, basically. That's what has caused war, raupatu, in our community, in my tribal areas that I'm affiliated to. And I guess there's nothing that can actually mend that pain. However, my goal is to make sure this next generation never, ever feels, sees, or hears of that, feels that pain, because we need to make sure that we acknowledge, learn from our history and how we move forward. However, with this government, we're going 10 steps back, and that's why we're coming at this very strongly.
Let's talk about New Zealand relations with other countries in the world. India, for instance, has had a bilateral relationship with New Zealand since 1952. What do you think needs to be done to foster better relations between your country, South Asian nations, nations in Africa, or the global South?
Well, I think for starters, the country needs to make some better relationships with its own Indigenous people before it goes anywhere else. That's how I feel. And I think naturally, New Zealand, Aotearoa, does have some good relationships and networks with other countries. However, it would be quite important to see or have an Indigenous relationship with different countries. However, I think New Zealand, Aotearoa, needs to actually think of some better ways in maintaining their own relationship with the Indigenous peoples.
Right, you're starting with your own people and then move ahead to the global borders. That's a very good point. What's the coloration between Australia and New Zealand? Like, do you get the usual confusion between Australians and New Zealanders?
I guess, yeah, because we are quite close through the Anzac. Also in countries and lengths and distance. Also, We have a very strong rugby league and rugby culture between the two different countries. However, recently, yesterday actually, if you've ever heard of the All-Star News, NRL All-Stars, it's actually a rugby league competition between the Maori people and the Indigenous people, Aboriginals of Australia. So, us as Indigenous people are always finding ways to make sure that we keep our culture alive and that connection that we have between each other.
What do you think about the two wars, the Ukraine-Russia and Israel-Gaza war?
Well, us as a party are very, very strong about making sure that we stand strong towards the occupation of Palestine. And we do not condemn any war on any instance or any stance. However, what we are seeing coming out of Gaza at the moment is complete genocide. And we have been calling for a ceasefire since the 7th, or since it has started. And I guess we have been showing up to our different rallies, showing up to the different protests, and making sure that our party has a strong stance on the certain events and this genocide that is happening.
All right, women empowerment or women taking up leading roles is a subject in so many countries, including New Zealand. You are a young female leader. What would you want other countries, including the greats like the US, Europe, and China, to learn from you about the female folk taking the lead in all aspects of the society?
I think if we go back to the question before, war is usually made up of men who want power. And we've had some extraordinary women leaders throughout our country that I aspire to be. And I don't see myself as a leader. However, just the person who has learnt from our older generation. And I think if we're looking at the younger generation, if we're looking at Indigenous protocols and customs, and if we're looking at a woman lens leadership, I think those lay the answers for a better sustainable future for the next generation.
All right, what's your advice to that young, vibrant woman watching you right now that's seen no hope whatsoever?
To me, sometimes it can feel quite silo or quite lonely in the positions or circumstances or situations that you're put in, but just know that you've got thousands and thousands of ancestors cheering up for you from up above, and just make that courageous step to whatever your hopes, aspirations, and dreams are, doing it for your next generation that is to come. Just be you, be unapologetically you, and who cares if people don't like it at the end of the day. Being you is the best thing that you can do for yourself and for your lineage.
I have been talking to Hana-Rawhiti Maipi-Clarke, the Member of Parliament for Hauraki Waikato, I hope I said it right, in New Zealand. But before I let you go, I have one favor to ask you. Will you do me the honor of reciting or singing the Haka verse one more time?
Oh, for us, we are quite, it has to be for an occasion.
Just one verse.
It has to be for an occasion that's traditional protocol. So if you can always go online and see different people, different sports groups, different tribal areas, schools. But unfortunately, I'm not allowed to do it unless, yeah.
What a bummer.
What
a bummer, Madam MP. But anyway, I'll take that from you. Hana-Rawhiti Maipi-Clarke, it was such an honor to talk to you. I wish you the very best in your leadership career and in life. Thank you very much for talking to WION World is One today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Taki.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.